Hello friends, Jenkins here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy, and in this video I'm going to be doing a little bit of a rant / analysis of a game that I played recently, and this is just because this is a topic that I get asked about a lot, which is essentially, if I'm a carry, if I'm a Safelane support, and there is an offlane that is going to absolutely crush us, like what the hell do we do? The Safelane doesn't feel very safe right now. So I played a game recently where I was Oracle, and I want to preempt this by saying that I'm not traditionally a support player. I've been theory crafting some tactics for dealing with very, very hard offlanes, but there are times where I'll try to pull this off and I'll completely fail miserably because mechanically I'm not very strong at these certain support heroes. But in this game it went very, very well, and I think it's as a result of a few of these tactics that I like to employ in games like this. So essentially, the very first thing that I did in this game, and the very first thing that you should do when you are playing any lane in general, is think about how the enemy lane wants to win the lane. Are they going to crush you? Will they restrict your farm? What is it that they're going to do? And in this game, essentially I looked and saw that there's a Skywrath Mage plus Nature's Prophet. These heroes want to slowly, methodically harass down my carry, prevent him from farming, kill us by essentially taking away all of our regen, and then killing us when we have no regen left. So, as a result of that, I essentially communicated to this guy, and this is probably the number one thing from this video that I think is important, and the number one thing that in the past couple of weeks I've had a good amount of success with, and it's going to sound ridiculous, but just communicating with your laning partner in the pub beforehand, before the lane actually starts, how you want to play the lane, can save you so much heartache. Essentially, in this game, I said to this guy, look man, they have Nature's Prophet, they have Sky, we are not winning this lane. If we try to just play the typical, you hit them, they hit us sort of lane, they will kill us every single time. It is Nature's Prophet, he has the Treants, Skywrath Mage has the Arcane Bolt, we do not win that fight. So we need to play this in a different way and try to salvage as opposed to get a lot out of this lane. So essentially I told him, alright dude, I'm going to buy a Sentry, I'm going to place it on the easy camp, I'm going to pull as much as I can and just send them constant double waves every single minute. So, as a result of that, he knows that instead of walking up and contesting the enemies, he's going to play as if I'm over here. And I know there's this idea that, okay, well, your team should just be watching what you're doing, and they shouldn't play aggressive if you're not there. But a lot of the time, there's just too much information to process on the map. If you don't talk about that before the game, you'll have a carry who runs into the lane and dies a bunch of times. So I really think that communication aspect is really, really important. And then also, if he has a different way that he thinks that we should win the lane, we can do that. We can try that, and that communication, it opens that line of communication to just say, all right, I'm going to initiate this. This is how we're going to win the lane. So that's very important. So essentially, I also told him that these regen pieces that I have, I don't have any mana regen because, like I said, there's no way we play the slowly, methodically trading with them game. We will not win that. So this regen is actually not for me. It's for Terrorblade, and it's not for the purpose of trading with our opponents. It's for the purpose of tanking creeps under the tower and tanking their harass. I am going to feed this regen to Terrorblade, including the tangos. It's not for me. How am I going to regen? I'm going to kill myself to the tower. In a lot of games, as a safe lane, you probably don't want to do that, you probably don't have to do that, but that is the sacrifice that I needed to make in this game, because we are not going to win this lane otherwise. If we just play normal lanes, the reason they pick these heroes is because the normal lanes, we will lose. So essentially this regen is for him, and normally I would go for maybe Mango, maybe some Clarity, but this is not a normal lane. So another thing that I've kind of been preaching a lot on my stream in the past week is this idea that if you are in the disadvantaged lane, which there's always going to be at least one of them, you want to attempt to go for their rune. The reason for that, and I know that sounds totally counterintuitive, the reason you go for their rune is because you are forcing action from them. You are forcing them to come and deal with you, which essentially, potentially this Terrorblade could have gone and gotten the rune because these supports are dealing with me. Maybe you'll get 3 runes that way, and that is it's worth that trade to go for that. And that's mainly a thing, if you're in the lane that's going to lose, you can go for that. If you're in the lane that's going to win, you're probably going to be in such an advantageous position, people are scared, you'll just get both runes. But if you can get 3 runes, that's a really, really easy way to win a lane that you shouldn't. So, in terms of this easy camp, this is probably the most important part, as these other things kind of help the way that I want to play this lane. For instance, he can tank creeps under the tower because I have a salve for him, but mainly the reason that this lane is going to be won, the reason that we won this lane is because of this easy camp. So essentially, if you place a ward in the current a sentry ward in Dota currently on the easy camp, you can deward the entire spawn box. One of the main reasons that I have tangos right now is because there are some gimmicky little wards that people can place in these trees by tangoing a tree themselves, and then the ward is going to be out of vision. So the tangos for me are, if the camp does not spawn on the minute mark, I'm going to tango these trees and look for the ward. So that's the main reason that I have tangos. Otherwise, hell, I might just go another salve for the Terrorblade or something like that and just try to get as much as we can out of this lane. But I needed the tangos to potentially scout for those wards in the trees, and that's very, very important. So I'm going to speed this up because basically you can just see that Terrorblade, the way he plays this, because we've communicated that we don't win this lane, he is just taking creeps, right-clicking the enemy hero, and trying to pull creeps into the tower and get as much as he can, because like I said, this lane is in salvage mode and not in the mode of trying to get a lot out of it. It's trying to get anything out of it, because if the enemy team isn't pressuring us, they are not doing their job. So the minute marks happens, the creep camp spawns. I just do 1Q on the Nature's Prophet just because, hey, why not? And I noticed that they didn't block it, so I just pull. The reason I don't stack this is because what's going to happen here is as I run over and use the salve on him, he actually took that damage because he knew that he had my salve to work with because of the whole communication aspect. But in any case, the reason that I'm doing a single pull instead of pulling on a stacked camp is because I want there to be a double wave pushing into the enemies, because if there's a double wave pushing into the enemies, then they can't pressure us hard, because if they try to right-click us, there's going to be 2 range creeps and potentially an extra melee creep or 2 hitting them, which is very, very bad for them. It's going to be hard for them to do that. So as the creep camp, I'm waiting for it to spawn. I come in and I just use some spells to, just use my mana just to trade a little bit while there's some downtime. I walk over, pull it again, and you can see that the Terrorblade, like, while his farming isn't that great, he has 3 denies, 5 last hits in a lane where maybe he should have died at this point. He almost died, but because we know that this is a losing lane, we play it a little bit differently. And constantly, these guys have to deal with this double wave being pushed into them, and as a result, the creep wave is right in front of their tower, which normally in a lot of situations you wouldn't want it to be that way because you're giving people free XP, but this is the pressure lane. They're going to be getting XP regardless. They're going to be getting last hits regardless. We are getting more than we should. And essentially, this lane went very, very nicely for us. At a certain point, the Skywrath Mage just left the lane. He just didn't want to deal with it anymore because there's no way to pressure if it's just a Terrorblade CSing under tower. You don't want to dive because you'll die, and then the Oracle is just constantly pulling. Like, what do you do? Essentially, probably what they should have done is like focus more on blocking that camp, maybe having a Skywrath walk over and body block it. But even then, the TB would be farming because the Skywrath would no longer be in the lane. So essentially, like, focusing all of your efforts on that easy camp, it's going to, in some way, no matter what, force the enemy team to give you something. But if you just allow the lane to lose and you play it like it's a normal lane, you're going to get completely obliterated. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I know this was a short video, but it's just something I had to get out there. So maybe I'll see you guys in the next video.